Alrighty, it is Wisco Fanatics Tuesday night. Our draft series is kicking off. We're very excited to get our draft series going. We will have shows running from this week all the way through the NFL draft in a little over a month, so we're very excited. We got wide receivers today, which is going to be an exciting one. A little bit less exciting one next week, but a very necessary one with the offensive line. And then we're going to have linebackers and a bunch of other defensive positions. But today we're starting on offense. We're starting with wide receivers, so let's jump into it.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Welcome back to another Wisco Fanatics Tuesday night. Christopher just wanted to let everybody know that Jake's really been filling out the beard.
It's been growing it out.
All right. So today we're starting with wide receivers, but before we jump in, we're just going to get through the icebreaker of talking about the free agents that the Packers have brought in so far, adding Aaron Banks, a guard from San Francisco, Nate Hobbs, a cornerback from the Raiders, and then today, just hours before the show, they added Mecole Hardman essentially to fill the kick return role. Reggie, welcome back. So essentially, I'll just give my thoughts real quick on the three guys that they've added. Strawberries or tomatoes, Justin, whatever you want to throw. Save them for when we have some controversial wide receiver rankings tonight.
Yeah.
My thought on the three free agents that they've added, and obviously the guys that they've retained, is just that it keeps flexibility available for Gutekunst in the draft. That's my main thing. Goody has always been a best available type drafting GM, and I think the players that he's added so far just will continue that trend. So Simon, Bryant, Jake, I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts on the three guys that the Packers have added so far.
Brian, go ahead, man.
Because I'll take, I'll say I'm a little on it. I'm uninspired, but that doesn't mean I'm not excited about him. I'll say this. I'm kind of glad, Mike Spofford was poo-pooing on my guard picks a little bit because I thought, we'll move some to center. Now that's pretty much confirmed that they will be moving some of the center. I still don't think Elton Jenkins will move from left guard. I have a feeling that if he moves, he'll be going to right guard, or Aaron Banks will be asked to play to right guard. So we'll see what happens, unless I miss something. So we paid a lot for him, but it does show up the offensive lineman, and the Duke is an absolute stud in the run blocking game. So that is exciting there. So Josh Jacobs is going to, I remember Simon pumping into our brains over and over and over again how many times, yards after contact and everything Josh Jacobs had this year. So hopefully he'll have a little more room this time. Hobbs, if he's going to play slot cornerback, I'm pretty excited about it. If we're going to try to change up his position full-time on outside, I'm not as excited about it. If we're going to use him as a versatile piece, then it's just still exciting. Not a huge needle mover for me, but a solid piece. I still think if we lose Ja, which is trending that way, that's still a net loss in the cornerback room. And then not getting an edge defender kind of hurts. As far as Mecole Hardman goes, as long as it doesn't change our strategy, we're going to have to draft a wide receiver, in my opinion, at the very minimum in the first 3 rounds, at least one of them. As long as they're not, for me, Mecole will be a return specialist and someone that can do some end arounds and stuff like that. So
leave it to somebody on the Vikings name to say my needle's a solid piece. All right. Well, with that, Jake or Simon, you guys have thoughts, or you got more, Brian?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Simon chill for a sec. I'll take this one, Simon. Don't worry, buddy. So for me, I really like the Aaron Banks move. What were the 2 main storylines on offense last year for the Packers? Josh Jacobs is good, so he was a great signing. We need to run the ball with him more. And Jordan Love injury, right? So doing stuff with the offensive line, maybe trying to keep Jordan Love upright a little bit, let him get hit less, and running the ball more with Josh Jacobs. Love that move. I will never, ever be upset about working on the trenches. Never. Yeah. I will never say anything negative about it.
You want to make no matter how many pieces the Packers have at that offensive line, we will always have it in our draft series.
Yeah.
It's just such a necessary thing, and the Packers are always going to be invested in it. Yeah. Oh, that's Bryant's brother. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Simon Taylor wants to know if you brought enough to share. I mean, the answer is probably, but you'd have to go all the way up to Alaska to get it.
I mean, he may have started with enough to share, but it's all gone now.
No, I'm good now.
He's violating that food right now.
In terms of Hobbs, I really like the signing. Just from an attitude standpoint, I like when DBs play with a little bit of fight, a little bit of hunger. Losing a guy like Jair, he was the emotional leader for that room in a lot of ways. So adding a guy like Hobbs, maybe he could fill some of that void. Maybe not total talent wise, but maybe attitude wise, that may be enough. Nixon, with the signing today, the first thing I thought of was Nixon is moving to the outside. That is 100% what I thought. He's not going to be returning anymore. He looks like he's going to take over as CB1, and you know what? If he wants it and they think that he could take it, why not? They're definitely still going to draft a corner, in my opinion.
Yep, we're covering that last. Probably
first or second round, in my opinion. But I don't know anything. I'm just a guy sitting in front of a laptop.
Christopher said both the Vikings and the Bears absolutely rebuilt their lines this year. We need to keep up, and the Lions have had one of the best for years. So Steve said depth is king. When Bakhtiari went down before Tampa Bay, we lost. Same when we had injuries versus Philly this year. That's very
true. Very true.
All right. Simon, anything else we want to say on the free agents before we start talking about wide receivers?
Yeah, I don't think these aren't guys that we necessarily had on our radar as high thoughts we wanted them brought in, but it also kind of makes sense. I think I kind of said something about it earlier. Goot likes the guys that come off their first contract and go into their second contract that are still very young, and both these guys fit very well. And I think he's kind of, especially with the Banks deal, hoping that he can still get a little bit better. And he fits the scheme so well with his ability to just move and stuff. Some of his pull plays are just downright disgustingly good, and Matt LaFleur loves that stuff. So that one may be a little bit of a projection. I thought maybe slightly overpaid, but if he gets better, then it's he's still better than what Josh Myers was offering. And this is just another summer where we're gonna be going into the year not knowing who's gonna start basically across the first four pieces of the offensive line. And we don't know what maybe this spells it out for where they want to play Jordan Morgan too, is at left tackle. Cause and I know I'm getting a rabbit hole here a little bit, but Brian Gutekunst came out after they drafted him and said they saw him as a tackle, but they were trying him at right guard because Rasheed Walker kind of already held down that spot. But next year, Rasheed Walker's a free agent. So that could spell them trying to play him as the future left tackle. Yeah, remains to be seen. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to jump in on the left tackle thing, is because the Packers could be in a position where they have to choose between Rasheed Walker and Zach Tom.
Yep. And I would choose Zach Tom every time.
Exactly.
Well, maybe Rasheed Walker ends up getting traded to Cincinnati for a certain player they have over there. Who knows?
Oh, yeah. I mean, someone said kind of something about trading Rasheed Walker, too. I probably wouldn't at this point, unless, especially with not really knowing where Jordan Morgan's at because of his slew of injuries and stuff. As far as Nate Hobb goes, go ahead.
I was just going to jump in one more time on the offensive line part of it. We can see how this summer kind of goes, too.
Yep.
And we get into it and we start seeing, in training camp and, the OTAs and stuff like that. If Morgan is looking good, looking the part, and they've drafted a couple offensive linemen as well, the depth could be rebuilt already. And then, Rasheed Walker could be I don't want to say expendable because he is a good left tackle, but, just being able to move a position piece of depth.
If Rasheed Walker plays like he did the last couple of years, I wouldn't be entirely shocked to see him get close to a $100 million contract next year in the offseason if he plays well again this year. Look at the backup for San Francisco that the Chiefs just signed for $15 million a year. He was the backup tackle. So the prices are insane. As for Banks, I think it was we paid him a lot, but Will Fry's got even more. And then I haven't seen many people coming. Maybe never mind. I think Fry's was a 5-year, but it's pretty close to the same ballpark. And you haven't seen too many people coming on and say it was an overpay other than fans, which, we don't really know what the market was like for him. So I still think it was a solid,
That's the other part of it is that he said that's Chris. That's Brian's brother brought up that young going into second contract players were pretty scarce this free agency period.
Yep.
2025 was looked at as a pretty weak free agent class. That's just a kind of a fact of generally accepted as far as the NFL is concerned. And brought up that a lot of teams overpaid because of that. And, you bring up the market. That's kind of just how the market goes sometimes. I mean, we had this conversation about Jordan Love. And they're like, oh, my God, they paid him that much money for one good season? And it's like, yes, that's where the market is. In a year from now, that's going to look like a bargain. Jordan Love's now like the 5th highest paid quarterback. He was the highest paid for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And then Dak got 60. So, like, it's just one of those things where the market's going to continue changing, as well as the salary cap booming this year. All of these agents are now going to be like, hey, 15% of the cap used to be this. Now it's this. So that's just kind of the nature of where the league is going, and that's something that has to be brought up. Steve said Goody also has a strong track record with splash moves and free agency, given the benefit of the doubt. And that's the thing, is like, you don't have to just go and sign Stephon Diggs just to have a big name free agent brought in.
Yeah, I mean, these are like really strong middle of the roster signings that like you need these to win Super Bowls, right? Yeah. You need those players. Not everyone's going to be your Super Bowl MVP, but if we went in and we run the ball for 160 yards in a playoff game and win that playoff game, Josh Jacobs is going to get all the credit. But then if you really dive into the tape, it might be Aaron Banks on those second level blocks that are really creating these holes.
Yeah. So, and to get them out in front of, when they run screens and stuff like that, which is something we can talk about with Mecole Hardman. They can run screens with him too a lot. His average depth of target last year with the Chiefs was like -0.5.
Yeah. Guess who's going to be pulling around when Mecole Hardman or Jaden Reed or whoever is running those end rounds? That's going to be Aaron Banks running right there.
It's Banks. Yep.
And that's a big dude coming downhill at 6'5", 325 pounds or whatever.
Michael said both Banks and Hobbs both overpaid, in my humble opinion. And then wide receiver he brought up, I'll leave that part till later. But if you look at it, the top paid slot corner last year was like $10 million, and Hobbs got 12. As we just mentioned about the salary cap, explaining, it's just kind of gonna keep progressing like that. So it's not a huge, raise. Obviously, Hobbs isn't going to be considered the best slot corner, but one of the best slot corners on this year's free agent market.
And don't forget when he was a rookie and they had him slowly in the slot, he was an all NFL rookie, and then he something like a 78 PFF grade for the year. So like if they keep him there and use him once in a while on the outside, he could very well be a very, very good slot corner for us.
Yeah. Justin said he just wants to sign Hendrickson. That's who we're talking about with a certain someone in Cincinnati. Steve said if we trade Walker, it's a good sign for Morgan. Same with Corey Ballantyne departing. The team already sees what's in the building. That's fair. And then your brother Chris brought up again, too, the sticker shock is real and it happens every time the cap has hit a big bump. That is absolutely true.
Facts.
Look at what Cincinnati just paid for 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, like what was it, like $280 million or something? Or?
$70 million a year cap it for the two of them.
Boy. Oh, my God. I mean,
and Reggie said it's all about guaranteed money, and that's I've seen it explained with Hobbs' deal that it's almost like 4 1-year contracts. Like they can
his guaranteed money.
It's anytime they want to get out of it, they pretty much can without a huge cap hit. So, we've known this for a long time that Russ Ball is a wizard, and continue to trust him until he gives us a reason not to. But without further ado, Michael said that wide receiver that he's in love with in this draft is the Stanford receiver A.O. Minor in this draft. So let's get into wide receivers. And we'll start from the top. We're all going to have 15 wide receivers on our lists here. So we're all going to give our 1 through 15s. We all have
15.
2.
Yes.
I'm just messing with you.
Like it's in the chat. Like Brian asked yesterday. Like it's in there.
That was well executed. Nicely done. Nicely done.
Got him.
Justin said hard to retain several pieces when you pay 3 players a premium, and that's true, and that's why they're
that's why their offensive line is the way it is.
Tyler, you look like you just saw a ghost, my boy.
I'm just like,
oh my God.
drive to Alaska and on the gooch, or just wait until April when he's here.
Dude, it's only like 40-hour drive. You're good. Probably more.
I'll wait
like
for
50.
you to come to me. So we all have 15 wide receivers. We're all going to highlight 2 of them that we are very interested in, not even necessarily just from the Packers perspective, or maybe it is strictly from the Packers perspective. Either way, So does anybody want to go first?
We're going 15-1, right?
We
No,
can,
we're going 1 to 15.
we can do it either way.
I like
I
going
like-
backwards.
We know.
All right, fine. Let's go backwards. Let's change it up. I'm fine with it. Let's do it.
I
All
mean,
right.
I don't know. I don't know how
Let's go.
similar.
Let's go. Name your
All
number
right,
15.
all right.
You start. You start.
I have Torrey Horton.
Ooh, okay.
All right,
Brian, you
Brian,
go.
who's your 15?
Deontay Thornton Jr.
All
I
right.
have Rock Taylor.
Steve said it alphabetically.
I'm down. Let's do it.
No.
You're gonna have to give me like an hour, dude.
Yeah. Oh man, that hurts my brain to think about trying to put him back in that order. Hey,
Yeah.
Omanor would be number 1 then. Okay, my number 15 is Matthew Golden.
Whoa.
What?
I told you guys weren't gonna like where I had him. Settle down on the YouTube over there. Simon, who's your 14?
Wait, who's talking about Golden? Anyone?
I am.
Bryant has him.
Okay,
It'll be a while.
we'll get there. Okay, then.
Okay.
All right. I have Savion Williams, TCU.
Bryant,
Okay.
14.
Jalen Noel.
All right. Jake, 14.
Chimere DK.
Ooh, I like
Hmm.
it. 14 is where I have Tez Johnson.
Okay.
Too small.
Steve said, "I like it, Tyler. Die on that hill." I will. I'll save it. I'll save it.
Wait, tell Brian because I was going to ask you why.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I'll talk to him about him
All right.
more here.
Simon, who's your 13?
I have Tez Johnson at 13.
Brian, who's your 13?
Xavier Restrepo.
Whoa.
See, now I'm offended. See,
Yeah,
we're gonna have this.
Really?
It's gonna happen. All right, Jake, who's your
No,
13?
no, I'm offended.
This is where I have my supposed to be my second guy, but since we're doing it backwards today, this is where I have my first guy, Dante Thornton Jr. Out of Tennessee. He was at Oregon. 6'5", 215. He's 22 years old. Ran a 4.3 40. He has a touchdown. He had a touchdown on 23% of his catches. He did only have 26 catches, but he led the nation in 50-yard catches. He had 6 50-yard catches. So 6 of his catches are touchdowns, and 6 of his catches are over 50 yards. So this guy literally is just a one-trick pony, big play guy. He's surprisingly fluid with his hips. He has game-breaking speed and acceleration. He keeps corners on their heels, and he keeps PCs up at night, I wrote down. And he's a contested catches warrior, uses his long arms away from his body very well. He has 32 and 1/8 inch arms. And you're going to love this. His player comp was Christian Watson.
Someone just.
So yes,
That's
exactly like Watson.
That's literally the reason that I picked him, because I was like, we lost Christian Watson. What better way to replace Christian Watson than with a guy that's compared to Christian Watson?
Yeah. So when I was looking at Deontay Thornton Jr., literally what I wrote down was MVS because he averages like 25 yards a catch and he struggles with some drops. It's like
His career average catch is 21.9. That's his career average over 4 years. That's
Dang.
insane. He literally is a one-trick pony. He runs fast.
But think about this. If we took him in the 4th round, say we don't get something goes wrong, you take him in the 4th round, we're replacing exactly what we lost with taking the top off the defense.
Yep.
So
Justin said he sounds like Nikhil Westbrook-Akine.
he's way faster than Westbrook-Akine.
Yeah, he's so fast. He makes fast people look not fast. That's how fast he is.
People would be
That's
surprised.
what Christian Watson does.
People would be surprised to learn that Westbrook-Akine ran a 4.7 for his 40.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, nicely done, Chris. All right, Simon, who's your number 12? Sorry, wait, 13 is where I have Nick Nash. Sorry.
Okay.
Let me give my 13 before we go to number 12. Now I'll go to number 12, Simon.
I have Isaiah Bond.
Okay.
I hate you.
Brian, who's your 12?
So I'm going to talk about this guy, just the notes I gave on some of these people real quick. But that's where I have Jack Beck. He is 6'1", 214, 455. But he just basically elite focus and can break tackles and good. To me, he's a possession receiver. Their comp to him was Cedric Tillman, which isn't fantastic. But basically, possession receiver that can make tough catches. So wouldn't be the worst to get him.
Yeah, Justin said he likes Nick Nash in the later rounds. I do too, especially like if he's there in like the 6th or 7th. I'd
He was right there around my top 15.
Yeah.
For sure.
Nick Nash and I are the same age.
Adarian's getting ahead of me. Don't get too far ahead.
Yeah,
And
he's
Steve,
very
you're gonna
popular.
love what I have to say about Restrepo. Steve said Thornton runs past SEC defensive backs with relative ease.
Yeah.
Touche.
He's fast.
Jake, who's your number 12?
That's where I have Jalen Royals.
All right. 12 is where I have Savion Williams from TCU, Jack Beck's teammate. Simon, who do you have number 11?
I have Jalen Royals.
Bryant, 11.
Ty Felton, 6'1", he's a little light, but a 4.37, just speedy route runner, yak, good leverage, but he's small, so it struggles in press and blocking and stuff.
Jake, who's your 11?
That's where I have Jack Beck.
All right. 11 is where I have Alec Aomanor.
Mm.
All right. Top 10. Here we go. Simon, who's your number 10?
Jalen Noel.
Noel.
Little Christmas. All right. Is that that's one of your guys, right?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Who's your other guy then?
I have Aomanor and Luther Burden.
Oh, you did switch.
Yeah.
All right. I dig it.
Good.
I like it. All right. Bryant, number 10.
So that's who you kind of just mentioned him, Tyler, was Savion Williams. So real quick on him, he's 6'4", 222, but ran a 4.48. He made the athletic freaks list, and there's something kind of unique about him is he's a triple threat. So he had 611 receiving yards for 6 touchdowns. He had a bunch of rushes for 310 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then he actually played quarterback in high school, and they said that he had a competition throwing the ball with the TCU quarterbacks, and he outthrew them in the air by 20 yards. They said he can throw the ball 80 yards in the air.
Jesus.
So he's kind of just an athletic freak, but suffers with some concentration drops and stuff. So it'd be
Don't tell the
interesting.
Raiders, they'll draft him.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Steve asked if our evaluations account only for talent, or do we also account for the Packers thresholds? We'll take the Packers like stereotype type players more into account when we do mocks. I think when I do my rankings, I usually do tend to just do them more from like which ones I see as like, having the most amount of skills that I would like to be added to the team.
Yeah, I go by talent. Otherwise, Tez Johnson wouldn't even touch my list.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Jake, number 10.
Torrey Horton.
All right.
Ooh.
Number 10 is where I have Isaiah Bond.
Hmm.
All right. Simon, who's your number 9?
Xavier Restrepo.
All right. Bryant, number 9.
Alec Aomanor. Struggle with that name a little bit, but
That wasn't bad. Jake, I'm going to guess that you have the same number 9 as Simon.
I have Restrepo. I like him a lot, but man, the 1 through 9 was
I'll talk about
dude,
it
the rank.
after Tyler talks about him.
I was scratching out numbers all over the place on this paper,
Dude, you gotta get one of these. I strongly recommend doing this, getting
I
a
got
dry
it.
erase board and dry erase magnets,
Yeah.
and you can just reorder them.
Yeah.
Strongly recommend this for doing your draft stuff.
I have a computer.
All right. Well, look at Simon living in the 2020s. Yeah, Justin, I'm really not big on the Texas guys, and I'll talk about why when we get to them a little bit. But I have one kind of specific reason why. In a world of tech, he has a dry erase board. Would it alarm you to know that I also have 2 monitors going right now as well?
AM flexing it. That's right. He's the old
it's
soul.
easier because then I don't have to switch tabs. I can just go back and forth. It's easy. It works.
I mean, I do like multiple monitors.
Ugh.
All right. Plus, I take my laptop upstairs and downstairs so much. All right.
To the bathroom.
All right. Where are we at? We're at number 9. Number 9 is
We're
where I
at
have
number
Jack
8 now.
Beck.
Number 8.
Number 8.
I have Trey Harris.
Wow. Well, low on Trey Harris. All right.
Yeah.
Brian, who is your number 8?
Isaiah Bond. Does anyone have him?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
He's not up on the list. Right?
Jake, who's your 8?
This is where I have Aomanor. I wrote down something. This is the only person I did this on for this wide receiver list. I said, this guy is a Packer. When I watched this film, I was like, this guy is a Green Bay Packer. So, Simon, I hope you're feeling that same energy.
Yeah, I have him a little bit higher.
Okay, that's fair.
Number 8 is where I have Torrey Horton. He was one of the guys when I was looking at wide receivers already in 2023 for an article I was writing. He was one of the guys that was kind of on my underrated list, as well as guys like Jalen Royals, Trey Harris, guys like Jacob Cowing, and who are now in the NFL. Jamari Thrash, another one. But going to number 7, Simon, who's your number 7?
Yeah, I was definitely talking about IBS. Number 7, I have Jaden Higgins.
All right. A lot of Higgins in the comments. I'm seeing that people are liking Higgins. Bryant, who's your number 7?
Yeah, mine is Jalen Royals. So just real quick about him. He's 6 foot, 205, 4.42 for his speed. Explosive straight line speed. He was a basketball player, so he could basically an ankle breaker, right? The concern with him is he didn't play a lot of talent. He's lesser talent frequently that he was kind of picking on, and then limited route tree. So he's definitely would be like kind of a specialist type that he could probably break some ankles and stuff. But I think he has some developing to do yet.
His 2023 stats are crazy because he didn't play. He only played 7 games in 2024 because he had a foot injury. But in 2023, he had 64 receptions for 1,027 yards. He had 14 touchdowns in 2023. It was Jalen Royals and I think his name was Jaden Vaughn, and the two of them were just going absolutely insane for Utah State. He's very, very interesting, and he was originally, before I got to my second guy, was going to be the second wide receiver that I was going to cover. So still potentially up for some of this, maybe putting on some extra content on some of these guys that we didn't pick to be the ones that we covered. Otherwise, we'd be here for 4 hours, which some people might be down for, but I don't know that the general consensus is going to want everybody to want us talking about wide receivers for 4 hours. Steve said some have compared Royals to a poor man's Jamar Chase with respect to his combination of run after catch and speed.
I think Jamar Chase has such a better route tree and stuff, though, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah?
Then I think that's where the poor man's Jamar Chase comes in.
The thing that Royals does well, that Chase does, is he stacks DBs really well, and he uses his basketball feet. That's where the background comes in, is he stacks the corners and he knows how to box them out and make an easy throw for the quarterback. So I do like Royals, but
you want to get out of my notebook?
So, dude, sorry.
Dude,
I know that I'm not
he
covering
read it
him,
like
but
2 minutes
I
ago.
literally wrote that he's good at stacking in my notes.
Yep.
Just get out of my notebook.
Sorry.
Let's see here. Where were we?
7.
We were at what, 7?
Mm-hmm.
Brian,
Yes.
did you give your number 7?
Yeah.
Wait,
mine
no.
was Royals.
Oh, yeah, wait. Go ahead. Never mind.
That's where I also, like Simon, we have number 9, and now we have number 7 the same. I have Jaden Higgins.
Number 7 is where I have Jalen Royals as well. Number 6, Simon, who's your number 6?
I have Jack
I
Bash.
didn't watch the notebook. I fell asleep the one time I tried to watch it.
I have Jack
Simon, who's your number
Bash.
6?
My number 6 is Trey Harris.
Jake,
I
who's
have
your 6?
Trey Harris at number 6.
All right, 6 is where I have Emeka Egbuka. Just not super high on.
Future Packer.
That's fine.
I wouldn't be mad if he was, but I have other guys higher. Simon, who's your number 5?
Number 5, I have Alec Aomanor. I have to look that name up. I always forget. Like, I hear it, and for some reason, I want to say Ao Manor, and I know that's not correct. Like, it's Ao
That's
Manor.
how it's spelled, so I understand. where you're
I
coming
know.
from.
Yo Manor.
I only speak English, so it is what it is. All right, so that's my guy. 21 years old, 6'2", 210, and like Jake kind of said earlier, this is like he screams Packer not only because of his play, but also like this is exactly the type of wide receiver that Green Bay needs in this offense. He's your typical, because we have a lot of like guys that can play inside in the slot, but he's like your typical big frame, prototypical X receiver, and he's a great blocker. He really uses his size to hold off defenders. He's got pretty good top speed, and I don't know why I spelled it right. That really good football IQ and awareness. I really thought he had good, like his comeback routes are like elite at the college level, and I thought he was a really good safety blanket for whatever QB that Stanford had playing that week. I think a lot of his production this year was down because of whatever Stanford had going on in the backfield. Sometimes he doesn't have necessarily the best hands and can struggle creating a little bit of separation, but he has a pretty decent contested catch rate over 50. I think it was 54.8%. And he was a really, I thought he was a good focal point of a struggling Stanford offense.
In 2024, it was 48.3, and in 2023, it was 58.9. But with the contested catch thing, I do agree with you on that as well as his lower reception percentage. I agree with you on the not great quarterback play. So I think there is a fair disclaimer to be made there. All right. Justin said a lot of mocks are showing Tet McMillan going to the Chargers right before us. Man, I don't think he makes it that far, if I'm being honest.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, I don't know. I listen to a lot of mock drafts and stuff, and it's weird how far he's fallen in like 2 months from when I first started listening to draft stuff. To like, not that, like they were talking about him being like a top 7-8 pick, and now he's fallen in like the teens and the early 20s.
I feel like that has a lot more to do with like all the edge rushers that showed out at the combine. That
I 100% agree. But like we also have like pro days and stuff coming up are still going on, so that stuff will all change too.
Tet McMillan just ran a 4.48 today.
Yeah,
so I think that's going to change people, and he might climb back up boards because of his size and stuff. So,
Justin said his stock is a roller coaster. That's true. Michael said, Aomanor has that Packer feeling to me. Higgins and Trey Harris are my other two that I like the best for Green Bay. And then he said that nose tackle, D-end, corner, and a wide receiver, not exactly in that order, are my first 3 picks in this draft. That's all positions that we're going to cover over the next 5 weeks. So stay tuned. Now that we're in the top 5, Bryant, give me your number 5.
Yeah, that's where I have Matthew Golden, who I highlighted to talk to about a little bit. 5'11", 191, so a little on the smaller side. Did run a 4.29 though. So just for kind of a reference, his player comp that they comped to was Chris Olave, which would be nice if he could stay healthy. He's a burner who he hits his top speed really quickly. If you don't respect his speed, he's going to stack you and leave you flat-footed. He's got good change. His route running doesn't need some work, but he does have good change of tempo and pace and quick feet. Once you get the ball in his hands, as long as another thing he struggles with a little bit is concentration catches. He'll drop the ball, but once he does get the ball in his hands, he's kind of a yak monster. Another thing I kind of liked about him, while he was described as a nasty route runner, I still think his route running probably needs some work and refinement. But something that is concerning with him to me a little bit is sometimes his effort kind of gets lost if he's covered or something like that. He'll kind of not put in a full effort. So that's something he needs to break to be going 100% all the time. He did house two touchdowns as a kick returner, so he would bring something there too. And then lastly, because of his smaller frame, he's going to struggle with blocks in the running game and stuff. So for me, if we're talking from a Packers perspective, he will not be a Packer, but I feel like if he can get the concentration down and clean up some of those drops, he has a very good chance of being the best wide receiver out of this draft class, just because of his speed, to be honest.
So my biggest thing with both of the Texas wide receivers is they ran so much like short yardage passing. So it's hard for me to get a feel of how Golden and Bond would do in like a downfield passing game, just because Texas ran so much stuff close to the line of scrimmage. Not that the Packers don't, but for me, it made it harder for me to envision them as Packers than it did the guys that I'm going to highlight in a second. So it's not necessarily that I don't think they can be good, Like it's me putting Golden at 15 didn't have as much to do with the fact that I don't think he can be a good wide receiver. It was just more to do with like I said, like harder to imagine them in the NFL because, in my opinion, I think Texas held them back a little bit. If I'm being dead honest, one of the notes that I had on Matthew Golden was I think he has some downfield ability that hasn't been tapped into. And the all the speed stuff from the combine is showing that he's one of the fastest wide receivers in the draft. So if, like I said, I think Texas maybe held them back a little bit.
That's fair.
All right, Jake, who's your number 5?
That's where I have Emeka Egbuka.
All right, number 5 is where I have Jaden Higgins.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of Jaden Higgins fans in the comments. I'm also a fan of Jaden Higgins. I would love Jaden Higgins on the Packers. Justin said we have a kick returner now, so no need. Not upset about the signing. Just hope it's a very team-friendly deal. The kick returner that they signed is a 1-year deal, and I think I mentioned this to you already. I think it's almost guaranteed that it's going to be the minimum.
Yeah.
And if you draft a kick returner this year or a guy who has kick returning experience, he can be the kick returner for the next 3 years after this. As they say, don't confuse can't with didn't. Good eval, Tyler. Well, thank you, Steve. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying it's hard to picture it because I didn't see it much. All right, top 4. Simon, who's your number 4?
I have Emeka Egbuka. Excuse me.
Brian, 4.
That's where I have Jaden Higgins. Are any of you talking about him?
We might just need to make its own video for Jaden Higgins.
Well, I can give my notes real
he's
quick
gonna
if
be really
we're
good.
talking about him. But yeah, 6'4", 214, 447. So his ball control and route running tempo creates separation. So this is one thing Packers fans would like to hear is he's vacuum-like hands. He has a 3% drop rate on 350 targets. So he does not drop the ball very often. So impressive catch radius and understanding of leverage. And he's versatile. The things that, negative is his straight line speed does have limitations, but if he can create the separation, then you don't need straight line speed necessarily. Look at what Devontae Adams was able to do for years and still doing. And he can be passive and when it comes to a little bit of contested catches and stuff. So he needs to go up and get the ball and be a little more aggressive. So, but that's what I have for him. Definitely would not be sad if we walked away with Jade.
Yeah.
The Packers did meet with him at the Senior Bowl. I had that written in my notes as well. At 6'4", 215, that is great size.
Yeah.
He had
Still
119 targets last season. He only had 2 drops on 119 targets. So that's fantastic.
Love that.
I really liked his body control. When he's in the air, I think he can control his body well to adjust to the ball in the air. Reggie said, make that man a Packer. I would be very happy with Jaden Higgins becoming a Packer.
He'll be right there, right? Unless he'll be right in our range.
He also has a 6'7" wingspan. So, I mean, that's a pretty good catch radius. Yeah.
Second round pick?
He's 6'4", and he has a 6'7" wingspan, dude. He never drops the damn ball. Yeah, lock that in.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we can get a Higgins. Doesn't have to be T. We don't have to pay him $40 million a year. Or 30. 30 is probably closer. But yeah, 6'4" would be very exciting. So
number 4.
I think where are we at number 4? Who's
Brian, did you go?
Number 4.
I just talked about Jaden Higgins, so at my number 4. So it'd be Jake now for number 4.
That's where I have my last guy. I have Isaiah Bond as my number 4. As Steve said earlier, he is a multiple-time state champ as a sprinter in the state of Georgia. The 100-meter, he ran in 10.5 seconds, which is fucking insane. Then he ran the 200-meter in 21 seconds. So, yeah, he's, so fast.
You just got straight line speed that doesn't stop.
Yeah, he's super fast. So I am going to say, for the record, I did write all of this down before I knew we were going to sign Mecole Hardman because I cannot see the future. He has some special teams experience, so I like that about him. He's willing to go over the middle and take some contact. I saw him being really good at out routes, and the first thing I thought of is damn, Packers run a lot of out routes to not as fast guys as Isaiah Bond. Just going to say that right now. He was really good at dig routes as well. He does a nice job eating up cushion from cornerbacks and then breaking at the top of his route to create separation. He doesn't round off his routes either, so I thought he was really good, really crisp at the top of his routes. And he does run the ball. So when I was thinking about drafting somebody, I was like, I don't want Jayden Reed running the ball all the time. I would rather us draft some guy who can just take the ball 5 to 10 times a game. I should really say 5 to 8. And he did house one versus Bama. Also, he did used to play for Alabama, and he caught the famous touchdown versus Auburn, that game when he touchdown versus Auburn a couple of years ago. So he's clutch. He runs the ball. He has special teams experience. He's really, really fast. He's good on out routes, good on dig routes. He's got straight line speed. And he had a 108.1 QBR when targeted last year. So he's pretty good.
You see who the NFL person that covered him at the Combine compared him to?
I don't know. I didn't look that up.
Jalen Waddle. That
Oh,
wouldn't be
I freaking love Jalen Waddle. God damn it, that makes me love him more.
yeah, so that wouldn't be a terrible pickup.
I like that.
The one thing that I had written down with Bond as another reason why I wasn't like super high on him is that he is a below average run blocker. That was just something that I put on my notes as well.
Sweet.
Again, not to say that he can't be good in the future. It's just one thing that I had written down.
Yeah.
So he's a giant penguin. Yep, that's exactly what that is. Him and Colin Farrell. Okay. So number 4 is where I have Xavier Restrepo. I told this to Jake before I started the show that I didn't think I was going to end up liking him, and he ended up becoming one of my top 5 wide receivers. He had 69 receptions, nice, 95 targets, had 1,127 yards and 11 touchdowns. So 72.6% reception percentage, 16.3 yards per reception, had 503 of his yards after the catch. Forced 12 missed tackles. I think he is very elusive, has some great jukes in the open field, as well as downfield ability. 8 for 13 on contested catches as a guy who is 5'10", 198 is impressive to me. And out of the 95 targets that he had, he also only had 2 drops. He has very strong hands, something that Steve brought up in the comments. Darian was another guy who mentioned Jaden Higgins. He brought up Trey Harris and Jaden Higgins in mocks. Trey Harris still coming yet. As well as a good route runner for Xavier Restrepo. He is good at finding holes in the zone. This was a big thing that stood out to me on the tape, and something that Jake mentioned to me before the show on him as well. Very, very good in the zone. If he was a little faster, to be honest, he might be in contention for higher than number 4 already where I have him. He ran a 4.45 unofficially. He didn't run the 40 at the Combine, but I do see him as a guy who can play in the middle of the field or on the sidelines, kind of how Jayden Reed can, even though he's primarily a slot receiver. He is still good on the sidelines. Something that we saw from him at Michigan State when he was in college. I think that's something that Xavier Restrepo can do as well. And just for good measure, Xavier Restrepo threw 17 reps on the bench press, which for a wide receiver is pretty solid. So very, very interested in Xavier Restrepo. Just another guy who, similarly to Jayden Reed, can just free other guys up to do other things.
Can I add one thing?
Yep.
He also dominated in high school down in Miami, where it's a hotbed down there for NFL talent and a lot of college football talent. He dominated the high school landscape there for 3 years.
Touché.
So food for thought.
So
Touché.
I
is
like
he similar to Ladd.
that
I'm
was
gonna be straight up with you. I did not watch a lot of Ladd McConkey.
so my concern with him is you start to see these body types, and I've seen too many Ty Montgomery / Laviska Shenault / that kind that don't pan out. You have the Debo kinds that do pan out and stuff, but we'll see what happens. So.
He is a couple inches shorter and about 10 pounds heavier than Ladd McConkey.
Yeah. And the source I looked at him at listed at 209 pounds, so at 5'10", so that's
then maybe he is more like Debo. Damn.
So he could have cut 10 pounds for the you know.
I got his height and weight from PFF on on NFL Draft Buzz, he's listed 5'10", 209. So very, very possible that he's just a tank that they could use in multiple ways, which would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to top three. Top three, Simon, give me your number 3.
I have Matthew Golden.
All right, Bryant, number 3.
Love that.
Yeah, this is where I have my next person, Emeka Egbuka. And I've liked him as a Packer, and so I actually found something, and I'll read it to you here in a second. But he's 6'1", 202 pounds, 430. His player comp was JSN. All Ohio State does is pump out wide receivers.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., JSN. JSN just put up 1,100 yards last year in his second season.
Terrell Pryor.
Ah,
But Marvin Harrison Jr., 885 yards as a rookie. Yeah, he may be underwhelmed compared to someone like Brian Thomas Jr. or something, but he still had a very solid rookie season. So, and I remember last year when Marvin Harrison Jr. sat out, and then there was a wide receiver for Ohio State that was kind of going crazy, and that was Egbuka. And people were talking about how he and I think he got hurt in one of their games, and they kind of really fell off the table after that. But they talked about how he might actually be even better than Marvin Harrison Jr. So he has elite long speed and route running. He's savvy and he varies tempo. He's got really quick feet, and that helps with some sharp cuts to create separation. He's electric after the catch and proven returner. So he's also, this is where I started really buying into him. He's great. He's really good as a run blocker. So, and you know who loves that is Matt LaFleur. So he did have the ankle surgery and he struggled. So he may, you have to make sure he's good off of that. And he does struggle a little bit against press. However, he does win with his craft. This was huge for me too. They put that he wins with his craft as much as his athleticism. So not only is he an athlete, but he knows how to play the position. That's big for me. And then I was reading some stuff, and he said, this is what one of the scouts said. His experience at OSU option-heavy pass game makes him an ideal match for systems that emphasize timing and spatial awareness, like the schemes of San Francisco or Green Bay. So he's a good scheme fit and a really good run blocker, and he does need to work a little bit to work on the outside a little more, but he can do that. So for me, he doesn't work on the outside as much as we'd want right away, but I think he can get there because he's 6'1". It's not like he's small, and he's got good speed. So 4.3 is blazing fast. So to me, if we could even trade up just a few spaces and get Egbuka, I'd be very happy.
I don't know that they'd really need to trade up for him, to be honest with you.
no, he's falling to the Packers.
Yeah,
If they want him
I
at
think
23, they could take him at 23.
I think he's going to go somewhere between 20 and 30.
Well, my concern is you have teams like San Francisco, Seattle, all of them that need wide receivers right ahead of us. So.
Well, Seattle just signed one, so
Did we.
That'd be a good point with San Francisco, though.
yeah, San Francisco
San
definitely.
Francisco needs everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They need another rookie quarterback so they can build a super team. I'm just going to jump in real quick. I think my favorite part about Egbuka that I wrote down is that he would fit in with the culture with Kraft and Josh Jacobs. I wrote that he runs like a psychopath after he gets the ball. He literally is trying to run through your face.
Physical.
He's a monster after the catch.
That's what helps him run blocking too. He's super physical.
Yeah. I mean, Big Ten football, baby, you got to run the ball, right, Tyler?
That's true. Justin said the Chargers need a wide receiver. There's a handful of wide receiver needy teams, and we'll probably, when we do our live mock drafts, we usually do a full round one, and then we do a bunch of just the Packers. So we'll probably do that. We'll probably look at that. So as far as wide receivers go, Jake, who is your number 3?
That is where I have Luther Burden III.
All right, number 3 is where I have my other guy, Trey Harris. This is a guy, if the Packers picked him at 23, I would be thrilled if the Packers took him at 23. 6'3", 210, only played in 8 games in 2024 and had 60 receptions on 76 targets. That's a 78.9 reception percentage. Averaged 17.2 yards per reception.
Damn.
So got some really good downfield ability at 6'3", 210. Also had a 38.5-inch vertical at the combine and a 10-foot 5-inch broad jump. So is a freak athlete with size. Had 1,030 yards, 7 touchdowns, 8 for 13 uncontested catches, which is something you'd want to see out of a guy that size. Forced 11 missed tackles, did have 5 drops, which is not a crazy amount, but more than you'd want to see, obviously. And when you have less than that, it gets you highlighted. He does play primarily outside. He averaged 17.7 yards per reception in his 2 years at Ole Miss. I wrote in my notes that he is big and he plays even bigger. He has the ability to get downfield, but also ran a ton of 5-yard and out routes and screens at Ole Miss. I think he makes great adjustments when the ball is in the air. That body control as well, I think, serves him well as uncontested catches. Going from 2023 to 2024, he increased his reception percentage from 62.1 to 78.9, which I think is a pretty significant jump. To catch 16% more of your targets, I think, is a big deal. Very elusive for a guy his size as well. Again, being big and elusive and a freak athlete, I think, is great. Also, had the 12th highest run block grade for wide receivers who played at least 20% of snaps. So that was a big deal for me as well. Looking at his last year at Louisiana Tech in 2022, he had 10 touchdowns. He had 8 touchdowns in 2023 with Ole Miss, and then 7 touchdowns in 2024 in only 8 games. So he is a touchdown monster. So I would be very, very, very happy if the Packers pick Trey Harris in round 1. Justin asked if Burden played for Missouri with Brady Cook. That is correct. And Reggie said, hey, Butterhands, Adam turned out pretty good. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say 5 drops as Butterhands, but it's just there's guys who had fewer with more targets. So top 2, I think we're going to have a lot of the same names coming up here. But Simon, who's your number 2?
Yeah, this is where I have Luther Burden. To me, he's just... This was like I purposely chose 2 guys that I thought underwhelmed for like as far as like production wise compared to their talent. And that's why Luther Burden he only had 600 and some yards receiving this year.
76.
Yep, 676. Thank you. But to me, he's an all around disgusting athlete, and he's a natural playmaker with the ball in his hand. This dude forced 30 missed tackles.
Yeah.
Like that's absolutely insane, which was tied for first. He's just sharp route runner, elusive, and he's a yak monster too. And he has really good long speed. And while he didn't necessarily play a ton of outside snaps, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he can. The obviously downsides, he's not really a great run blocker, he's not a really great run blocker, and he has had some concentration drops. But I really think he could step in and be that outside guy that he's not like super tall like some of the other guys we talked about with like 6'2", 3, 4, 5. But I think he has the long speed to stretch the field out and really play that X style wide receiver that Green Bay needs.
So I have more notes on Luther Burden. He's still going to come up in my rankings here yet. The thing that I put on him, he's fast and quick. So this is going to be something that we come up with in multiple positions this year. But there's to me, there's a difference between speed and being quick, and it's that quick foot movement that obviously guys like Devontae Adams and Dontavian Wicks have. Those are the examples that I would give of quickness versus just, Christian Watson having speed. And with that usually comes good route running and good separation, which is something that Luther Burden definitely has. With him, you brought up his yards after the catch. In 2024, 55.2% of his yards came after the catch. Jesus. And in 2023, when he had 83 receptions on 117 targets for 1,194 yards and 8 touchdowns, he had 718 yards after the catch. That was 60% of his total. Was after the catch. So definitely a yards after the catch monster. So Luther Burden's going to be on my list yet. Brian, who's your number 2?
Yeah, my number 2 is Luther Burden. I do have that, he's that Simon talked about that physicality and breaking tackles. That also kind of makes him a dog in the run blocking game. Like he'll get in there and he'll run block. Interesting enough, his player comp was Garrett Wilson, which, that wouldn't be terrible. People are talking about trading a first for Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think Luther Burden makes it to 23, if I'm being honest.
I'd be surprised.
That was a long time ago, Steve. Yes, Justin, the foot twitch is a big bonus with a fast wide receiver. Absolutely.
I got to say about Steve, bro. Top 5 name and also top 5 bust. Just got to say it.
Yeah. Oh, he was like a 4th-round draft pick.
Hey, dude, everybody was talking about him. They thought he was going to be the man.
Yeah. Dude, he looked. I really liked him coming out. I thought he was going to be so good, dude.
In preseason, he was dogging. And then,
I was thinking, like he was going to be the next Jeremy McLean.
Yeah.
Dude, not even the biggest bust of his last name. You remember how good people thought Rondale Moore was going to be, and they wanted him in the first round?
Yeah.
And he went to a 3rd rounder, and now he's about to be on his 3rd team in 3 years.
Is he still around? I haven't heard his name.
He just signed with somebody.
Oh, really?
Did he sign? I know he was visiting the Bears. I don't know if he signed or not.
Oh, maybe it was visiting. I saw his name recently.
Yeah, he's visiting or potentially signing with the Bears. But people wanted him in the first round because he was fast. Oh, he's fast. He's one of the fastest guys at the combine. We should draft him at 18.
Yeah, we drafted Jamal Moore, and from that draft class we kept MVS and the other one. Who was the other wide receiver in that class too? That we kept for a little while longer. I can't remember.
That's a good question.
It was MVS and
Chris said Rondale Moore visited Minnesota and Chicago. Steve said he's guilty. See, I found a
wide receiver out of UCLA. It might have been him. Trevor Davis, maybe.
Oh, that could
was that the Trevor Davis? Was that the Aberdarius draft?
I can't remember now.
I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah,
I know MBS was one of them because we went
on the subject now.
MBS and someone else. I cannot remember.
Rondale Moore squats.
The Packers. Oh, EQ is in that draft.
Okay. Oh, that's right. That's the EQ draft.
Gross draft. Oh.
Yeah, their draft that year was Jair, Josh Jackson, Oren Burks, Jamon Moore, MVS, J.K. Scott, Cole Madison, and EQ, and then Kendall Donnerson, Hunter Bradley, and James Looney. So we got our long snapper for about 5 years out of that draft.
I will say that if you go and look at a couple of the drafts, there's been a couple drafts in there that we have like one person left from it, and it has hurt us, and that's why you start seeing people like Aaron Banks get $77 million is because people haven't hit. So if you go back, Jordan Love's draft, that was not good. Other than Jordan Love makes the whole draft. But look at
the Bears are still looking for a quarterback. So,
did you know that there's like 3 players that were picked ahead of Love that are already out of the league?
Yep.
Yeah. Steve said Rondale Moore squats. Justin said I had Rondale Moore on my fantasy team his rookie season, and he never left the bench. I bet. So yeah, there's definitely a case to be made. Like I said, that he might not even be the biggest draft bust with his last name.
Jake,
all right,
number 2.
Jake, number 2.
That's right, Matthew Golden.
All right. Steve said Packers scout helmets and family trees, no Burden and no Amon Ra. All right. Number 2. This might be my biggest draft shocker. Number 2, I have Teteroa McMillan at number 2.
I don't think that's that crazy, to be honest.
When I get to my number 1 and I explain why, you'll understand. So, Simon, who's your number 1?
Teteroa McMillan.
Brian, number 1?
Yeah, Tet McMillan. I just think his production throughout college, his size, his speed combo, like everything is just he's a step ahead of the rest. At least from the start. I think he's a step ahead of the rest.
Yeah. Jake, who's your number 1?
I also have McMillan, and partially because I got some nostalgia watching his film on the back shoulder throws, and I was like, oh, man. Then I threw on the Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson tape after that because I was like, whew. Would I love a 6'5" guy to run some back shoulder fades with Jordan Love, dude. Boy, oh, boy.
I will say I am a big Teteroa McMillan fan. I think there's a possibility he goes in the top 10. But I have Luther Burden number 1. And a big reason has to do with Zay Flowers. Because in 2022, we were doing wide receivers, and we were all consensus that Quentin Johnston was going to be the number one. And I was really excited about Zay Flowers, and I had him number 2 because I didn't have the nuts to put him over Quentin Johnston. And this year, I really, really loved what I saw from Luther Burden, and I said, you know what? I understand that everybody's going to have Teteroa McMillan as their number 1, but I like what I see from Luther Burden, so I'm going to give him the nod.
I'm not mad at it.
No.
Steve said, I heard Tet would have been a high pick last year, but wanted to work on his craft. Love that. Probably has benefits of being able to get paid as well.
Yep.
You stay an extra year in college, so that probably helps lessen the need to go straight to the NFL.
Did you say it lessens the burden?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, he's put up over 1,000, like 13. He has like 2 1,300 yards in seasons in college, and another 1,100 yard season. He's just produced. So, I mean,
yeah. The one thing that I did have is like a potential knock on McMillan. He did have 7 drops.
Yeah.
And my question that I have with him is if he can create separation versus press coverage.
That was kind of my most negative thing on him was he might struggle getting separation on guys.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's speedy, but he doesn't have the long speed to like really kind of, force
That's
over the
probably
top and burn people. So for that, people are going to get up in his face a little bit. So I can definitely agree there.
Yeah, I just wondered if like as the ball is snapped, if somebody smacks him in the face, if he's gonna, just kind of run into the guy and kind of give up on his route, or if he's gonna hand fight, or if he's gonna be able to use quick twitch speed to get around and then go.
His player comp was Drake London, and I think that's probably pretty accurate, to be honest.
Damn, I love Drake London.
I mean, Drake London's coming along, but he's had his bumps and stuff.
It's taken 3 years for him to break out like people thought he was going to as a rookie.
I mean, some inconsistent quarterback play. Let's
right,
get
which is fair.
where it's due.
Yep, that's fair.
Ritter is freaking terrible. Kirk Cousins was terrible last year, and then he had another rookie quarterback. I mean,
yeah. Alrighty, well, those are our wide receivers. Thank you for all the input. We love all the comments coming down the chute. Lots of good input on that as well, which is why we do the shows live so people can comment along. Chris said, I think that's an issue that can be worked on. Addison had separation troubles year 1 at the line, got better in year 2. Justin said, I still think Higgins is the guy for us. He just checks all the boxes. Justin said, who's the one guy each of you would put as an honorable mention that didn't make the list? So
I got one.
Go for it.
So this was just off my list, and I liked him going to the Senior Bowl. I like Pat Bryant of Illinois.
Honestly, I didn't like Pat Bryant from being.
That's fine.
Honest with you.
I liked him.
Mine would have been Nash. Was my first off.
I'm gonna look through my guys. Reggie said, "Glad y'all do this because I don't know anything about the draft." Well, that is a big chunk of why we do it. I think we've had this conversation too. We do all this draft work before the season starts, and I think even though obviously we know that out of the 200 players we're going to talk about in the next month and a half, that 4 of them are going to get drafted by the Packers. But what ends up happening is that now that we've studied all these players as they're coming out of college, we know the league a lot better. So I think that's honestly probably a bigger benefit than telling you guys about these players, is that it helps us know these guys. So when we're playing the Steelers in week 6 next year, that we can tell you all about Torrey Horton and why he was drafted and stuff like that. So, so as far as other wide receivers that didn't make the list, Jalen Noel didn't make my list. Kyron Lacey might be one for me. Every time watching LSU highlights and LSU offensive games, especially for offensive lineman, Kyron Lacey's got his hands on the ball a lot.
Ted Johnson was the guy that was just off my list from Oregon.
Yeah, I like him. He's just too small for me, I feel like. Yeah. But then again, we watched Tank Dell, what he's done, but then look at the injuries he suffered too.
I was going to say,
he got kind of unlucky with the torn ACL last year.
No, that was more than a torn ACL, wasn't it? He blew up his whole knee.
Yeah. But anyways, he still got unlucky with his own guy running into him. So.
Yeah. Chris asked, I'm curious what you guys think about the Bears' moves. I think they're in the basement until they prove they aren't. Just want to know how you'll feel about the division from a Packer perspective. My thing is, there was tons of times last year where Caleb Williams held the ball too long, and now you've just given him more time. You've given him more time to be indecisive.
Or make plays.
I'll-
Until they prove it. I do like their signings. I really like that center. For me, I was like, well, I'll say this. I said, well, why pay Aaron Banks so much money just to move someone else to center when you could have had the top 3 to 5 center in the league and just pay him a little more than Chicago paid him and tell him, hey, you can come here and win, or you can go to Chicago and, hope you don't get shot downtown. So I don't like Chicago. I'm sorry. I know. Beautiful city, whatever. But that for me is, so I really like their center signing. I felt like they made a couple other decent signings, but the center for me was the one that I was like, oof, that sucks to see him go there. So
I'll say this: we don't even know how good Jenkins can be at center. Maybe he's a top 3 to 5 center in the league, and he's already signed under contract for the Packers. He understands the playbook, so you don't have to teach a new guy what to do. You put Aaron Banks in his natural position. Thing I'm going to say about the Bears, I do like that they're trying to work on the offensive line. That's smart. I mean, unlike a team in Cincinnati that isn't trying to protect their franchise quarterback, they're just signing his best friends to him billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson, I'm going to tell you right now, it's fucking on, you son of a bitch. You want to fucking talk shit about my head coach? If that doesn't light a fire under LaFleur's ass, nothing will light a fire under LaFleur's ass. Also, I think it's hilarious how every person that signs with the Bears mentions the Packers.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing.
Are you? Every time I hear one of them talk,
maybe they should be talking about the Vikings in Detroit, who were ahead of us.
Seriously, they both just won 14 games, dude, and you're talking about us. That's how in your head we are. That's insane to me. I will say, sadly, I have to admit the Vikings are having a freaking fantastic offseason so far.
Yeah,
they don't have a quarterback. They still don't. I still don't like JJ McCarthy. He's sat out a year.
Me and Simon are already planning on getting Chris's Aaron Rodgers jersey.
They have a disgusting.
Oh my god, dude! I would laugh so hard.
The Vikings defense is going to be filthy next year. I will say that.
They need a quarterback. I agree. JJ might be the answer, but are you really going to take a Super Bowl ready roster and hope that the rookie quarterback is what they need?
Rodgers wants $33 million a year, dude. He said he's looking for $33 million for 2 years. Well, average $33 million.
I forgot what I was going to say about we were talking about the Bears.
Yeah. Sorry, they just always mention the Packers. That shit is just hilarious to me, dude. I'm always like, are you shitting me, dude? First thing you do when you come to town is you talk about your dad. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dang it. I forgot what I was going to say now.
I'm going to be honest. This was something I was listening to earlier. Someone was like, it's funny that like fans and stuff always get ahead of like all these signings and stuff. Is like these are some big movement like things that change a team, but like I guess everyone else in the league just doesn't really think much of it. And that's kind of like until the Bears prove otherwise, like that team's just they're sitting in like nothing so far, and we still don't know if maybe this is like maybe last year was what Caleb Williams was. We don't know. Because everything last offseason was, oh, Caleb Williams is walking in the best situation of any other QB. And then they get to the offseason and they're like, no, the offensive line was this happened. It's like, where are all these excuses coming from? Yeah. Best situation ever. Like, come on.
Yeah, when they got Keenan Allen, oh man,
people
were going crazy.
I knew that was a waste of a given draft pick too. I was like, that's such a waste. Yeah. And they give up a 5th rounder for a center who's not on the team anymore. Like
wide receiver pick.
Yeah.
They don't give up. They don't waste picks, right?
Oh my god.
Claypool, that was a good trade.
Rodgers, I think Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh. I don't think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Going to Minnesota.
I think Minnesota would be a great spot for him, and I think they'd be legitimate Super Bowl.
I don't think Minnesota wants him.
But I think it's because they don't want to repeat the thing. But it's funny because it's like I do think that he's better than Favre right now when Favre went to the Vikings. And I do think that he could make them a serious Super Bowl contender. And he started to become healthy at the end of last year and started to look pretty damn like Aaron Rodgers, even after all the stuff that went through. Like Aaron Rodgers, older Aaron Rodgers, but he's still making some throws and plays. And people are like, oh, he threw 11 interceptions. You know how many times I was watching a Jets game because I cared and I wanted to see what Aaron Rodgers was doing? He'd hit his wide receiver straight in the hands and it'd go through their hands right to the defender.
Oh, they led the league in drops last year. The Jets did.
Yeah. So as much as, we're joking with Chris, like, oh, go get Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers ends up in Minnesota, they're legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
They're the best team in the North if they get Aaron Rodgers. They are better than the Lions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's a question to me. Yeah, the Vikings would be disgusting with Aaron Rodgers.
The thing I was going to say was when you're talking about Drew Dahlman and the Bears getting him for $14 million, the thing we have to remember is that Drew Dahlman isn't going to walk into Lambeau and be like, hey, they're offering me 14. Would you pay me 16? And Goody also doesn't know that the Bears are offering him 14 to be like, hey, we'll give you 16 because they offered you 14. Like, it's not Drew Dahlman sitting down in a conference room at a table with the Bears on one side and the Packers on the other side going back and forth in a bidding war.
No, I hear you.
So I just think I'm not like trying to single you out. I think in general, just fans have to remember, like, it's not Madden. You don't get to see what all the top offers are for every player and just beat it by a million and be like, oh, he'll come here. So,
No, and I agree. And I'm just saying that, maybe they had that conversation. Maybe he really, for whatever reason, wanted to play in Chicago. Maybe he has friends in Chicago. You never know. So, but for me, overall, I'm fine with the Aaron Banks signing because we just watched Minnesota sign 2 very good defensive linemen. We watched Chicago get some good defensive linemen. Detroit already had, Detroit is a little weak on the defensive line. But, I mean, we have to be able to protect Jordan Love, and that comes first. And it's still a big signing, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and to keep Josh Jacobs churning.
Yeah.
Outside of Saquon and Derrick Henry, he was arguably the next best running back in the NFL. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is probably up there too, but we're talking about a top 5 confirmed running back.
Yeah.
If Jahmyr got the touches, he would be right there with Saquon in production. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But
I love
he's also got
I
David
hate it for
Montgomery
my
in the same
fantasy
backfield,
team,
so.
but because I'm screaming at the TV all the time that they're continuing to give Montgomery carries that he shouldn't be having. But hey, whatever.
He's a tone setter for them. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Darian said, I'm sold on Green Bay going defense with their first round pick. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Although if there was a year that they were going to go first round wide receiver, this is the year that I think
it really depends, in my opinion, because if a bunch of the edges and defensive linemen and the cornerback, I mean, they all can't go off the board. So there's a very good chance that
somebody's going to fall.
Why can't I blanking on the name? But the cornerback out of Texas, like if he falls to us or something like that, you know what I mean? Pull the trigger. And I'm not going to be mad at it. I feel like there's going to be, but this is going to be the typical damn Green Bay thing to do. There's going to be like 40 people we absolutely love on the board, and they're going to find the one name we have to go research. Even last year we had to go, like, all of us had talked about Jordan Motian, but he was like 8th or 9th on our 10th on our tackle list or whatever. We were like, wait here. So like they find a way of finding someone.
I mean, I think we did Jordan Morgan and Graham Barton back to back when we did our first round draft last year.
I did really like Graham Barton.
And they just flipped in the actual draft.
Graham Barton had a really good rookie year.
Yeah, he went one pick before the Packers.
Yeah.
Chris said he would love it if Minnesota took Barron.
No.
He said no. He said they think they trade back.
You guys have Jeff Okudah now. You don't need him.
Former number 3 overall pick. Great pickup. Hobbs is wearing 21. 21 will always be Woodson. Steve said you've seen the movie. True. All right. Well, again, thank you for everybody for tuning in, for all the comments. We appreciate it. Those are our wide receivers. We will make lists out of these. The guys are going to send me their list, and I will consensus them out, and we'll come up with a consensus, probably top 10, because there's a lot of variance in our top 15s. So keep an eye out for that. And then next Tuesday is going to be offensive line. Again, it's not going to be a sexy show as far as stats are concerned. And I promise you, watching tons and tons of offensive line play is not an exciting thing.
No.
But when it comes to the NFL, it is a necessary position to research, and it is a necessary position to invest in. So the Packers are always going to do so. We've known this. We will always know this. And it doesn't matter if it's position of need or not. We are probably always going to cover offensive linemen because the Packers are probably always going to draft 1 or 2. So join us again for offensive line next Tuesday, and then join Jake and I tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the Badgers and the Bucks as well, and keep an eye out on our pages for the Brewers content that we're putting out every day as well. And we will see you guys tomorrow, and then Simon and Bryant, we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Go Pack Go.